You have found yourself on Locked On Bulls, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the Bulls win-loss predictions, playoff seeding, and what matchups we want to see the Bulls get, especially in that first round. And then we'll also be previewing the Chicago Bulls versus the Cavs. All that on today's episode of Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Pat, the designer, who's in the building, I'm Haize, man. We got some fun things to talk about today. First of all, we're going to jump into win-loss predictions for the Bulls with the rest of the season left. They have 16 games left. We got games against Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, New York, Cleveland, Milwaukee again. We got some key matchups. We also got some ones that should be fairly winnable games for the Bulls. So, Pat, where you want to start this off with, man?
I mean, listen, I'm probably more optimistic than most, but it really depends on what the Bulls do in these next couple of games, right?
Yeah.
In the NBA is all about hitting a stride, getting some runs, and figuring out, things that work for you and moving forward. So, like, I'm probably a little more optimistic than most. I could see the Bulls going 11-5 in that stretch. I know that sounds crazy. I know my predictions have been wrong on this, but but I see. Listen, we're matching up next week against this Saturday next week. What am I talking about? Matching up this Saturday against a Cleveland team that is going the other way, dealing with some injury issues. After that, you got the Kings. The Kings are trying to figure out who they are. You know what I'm saying? That's a winnable game. We've beaten the Jazz already without our big man. To me, that's a winnable game. The Jazz are a weird team too. By the way, are they not a top team? Like I'm trying to figure out where these top teams, where the list stops for us, because we've never beaten a top team. Remember that? They're fourth in the West. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But I think those are some winnable games. Those are some good wins that you could get for the Bulls, and I think that could springboard you forward into a nice little run there. Question mark on that Suns game. Toronto, I think they got to get a Bucks game. They got to get a Bucks game. Right. I can't see them getting swept by the Bucks. So to me, I'm looking at the tougher matchups in there, right? Maybe Clippers, you're saying, Heat again, Bucks again, Celtics again. I see the Bulls getting, I'd say I see them getting about 11 of them, and I feel good about saying that, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not only just now they're getting wins, now they're starting to, you hope they get this win in Cleveland, but it's also at the same time they're getting healthy while they're getting these wins in my mindset. So that's really what I'm hoping for here, man. And looking forward, I think you just got to see how this team matches up. I just think that there's some key wins that the Bulls get here, and especially coming down the stretch. You know, we heard Tristan Thompson talking about you want to do you start to game plan yourself for these teams that you're going to match up in the playoffs. The Bulls are in a position where they could be playing the Bucks. They could be playing the Celtics. These are teams you need to start game plan. You could be playing Cleveland. These are teams you need to start game planning for, figuring out how to beat these teams, figuring out what works well against them, and getting that done.
They got Cleveland, Sacramento, Utah, all back-to-back, all very winnable games. Tough games. I'm not saying they're going to be easy, but all definitely winnable games. They got all those games. That puts you in a nice position. The Phoenix game is going to be tough, especially it's on NBA TV. We know how they played on national TV. But then after that, you got Toronto, which we played Toronto very well over the course of the season. The Milwaukee game, I agree with you. They're going to get at least one of those Milwaukee games. New Orleans, that's a dub. Cleveland again, I'm going to say that's a dub. New York, it has to be a dub because I don't want to lose to the Knicks. Washington, we'll see. That's probably a dub as well. I before looking at the schedule, I would not have agreed with you if you just flat out told me, oh, they'll probably be able to get 11 games out of this. But looking at it, I think 10 or 11 games is very, very possible. And if the Bulls can still get to that 50 win mark, yeah.
And that'll put you at 50 to 51 wins. You know, in my scenario, they finish off with 51 wins. It's a heck of a season. We haven't had 40 wins since 2017. So you have to give. I understand there's been some skids. I understand there's been some lows in this season, but there's been a lot of highs. And I think that's the part that you want Bulls fans to remember. And that's how you want the season to finish, right? Because if you finish the season on a high note, if you finish the season going into the playoffs, right, after beating some of these teams that everyone has said, oh, the Bulls can't beat any top teams. I don't know what we're going to do in the playoffs. Woe is me.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like that's that. And I can't say like, okay, don't worry about it. You're not beating any time. Like, it's a bad look when Phoenix come through and kick your head in. I get we lost by 3, but we really know how that game went. But I think that getting the fight back, right? Getting the teeth back in this defense. Like legitimately, we're talking about a team that lost its teeth in a lot of its big name players, but it didn't lose its teeth offensively. So I think that I'm looking at a lot of these games we lost, right? Like, I'm looking at the Suns game that we lost. What was the problem? Had nobody to guard anybody. They kicked your face in and you got down big real quick. The Milwaukee game was hard fought the whole way. We were in that thing. We were in both of those games the entire time. You can't tell me Alex Caruso and hopefully P. Will don't make a difference in a game like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at those games. We like even the Miami game. We were never out of. Well, no, that last one we was out of.
We were out of the last. Yeah,
that last one we was out of. I ain't gonna lie to you. But having your full slate of teams. And I know we don't give the Bulls credit like we do other teams for having that, but because we're so close, we're watching it. We're like, no, you should be able to do this. And other teams have these same injuries, and we're like, but everybody's got them. It's like, but it's still you still have to play without them. It's different. You know what I'm saying? So I see getting your full slate of players back. I'm not. I don't know, man. Boston, they balling, but like, is Boston
playing the best defense that they have all season, right?
Yeah,
they're playing
and it comes
defense.
at a time where they're playing really bad teams.
Yeah. So we'll see with that. But to talk about that Boston game and some around there, the Bulls end the season with Miami, Milwaukee, and Boston. And that Milwaukee-Boston is a back-to-back, Charlotte, and then Minnesota. But those can all be a tough stretch of games going right before the playoffs. And I think how they bond together in those games, especially by then we should have everybody back, hopefully, knock on wood. How they play in those games in that row is really going to change. Well, let me not say change the momentum, but for the fan base, it's going to be huge if they can win 3 out of those 5 games. I think the fan base goes into the playoffs and those doubters get silenced, and we can get back to getting excited about basketball. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree. And I think here's the thing, right? A couple of back-to-backs in there, both of them against Milwaukee, right? Like, but if you end the season there with a dub, I would say pick your poison. You know what I'm saying? At that time, we're gonna know pretty much who the Bulls are probably gonna be playing when this thing's all said and done.
For sure.
It's either gonna be Milwaukee, it could be Boston, it could be Miami. No, it can't be Miami. Miami's number 1. It could be Milwaukee or Boston, really. There could be some flux in the standings there. But if that's the case, you're going to see them focus in on one of those 2 teams probably a heck of a lot more than they do on the other one. You're going to see them focus in on, okay, like I could see them dropping one of those games, and I could be like, yeah, of course they dropped that game, because their entire mindset on the game plan on this is to figure out how to beat the other team. So I think they get that Miami game. Because at that point, I mean, 5 games left in the season, you're probably going to see Miami, if they're still in that first seed, taking the foot off the pedal, preparing for a Brooklyn team if they stay in the same spot that absolutely just ran roughshod on Philly. Have fun with that, Miami.
Yeah.
But I think that you could see them get that Miami game, and then either, depending on who they play, one of the Milwaukee and Boston games, and then probably the Hornets and Timberwolves, who knows with that. Like, they might not even be playing anybody in the Timberwolves game if we're pretty much set. You know what I'm saying? So
that's true.
It's to be seen.
That's true. What I will say, one of the games that I'm going to really be keyed in on right before we get into the next segment is that last game against Milwaukee on February 5th. It's at home. Alex Caruso should be back by then. The United Center is going to be rocking. Do we see any Grayson Allen on Alex Caruso in that game?
hey, I feel bad for Grace. I don't even think Alex will hurt him. I
Yeah.
just think it's gonna be. I think if we have Alex back for the first or second Milwaukee game,
Mm-hmm.
Alex is gonna be running a defensive clinic on
Yeah.
whoever he's guarding, dog. So that's gonna
For
be
sure.
fun to see. I'm not gonna lie to you.
For sure, for sure. Well, next we're going to be talking about the Bulls' potential playoff matchups and who we want to see them. But before we do that, I want to talk to you guys about BetOnline. It's that time a year again. College basketball tournament is finally upon us. One of my favorite times of year. For the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is also the continued source for all your sport wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online where the game starts. All right, let's go ahead and get into this topic. This is the one that's been on Bull social media a lot. Is potential playoff matchups, and you hear a lot now. And Bulls fans, they're so fickle. Now people just want to avoid Boston. I'm like, all right, so you want to avoid Boston, so you want to potentially face a better team, like. But what do you think about seeding so far in the playoffs, and who do you want to see the Bulls face in that first round?
No matter who you play, it's tough. The Eastern
Yeah.
Conference is the toughest conference in basketball right now. We're talking about 1 is Miami, 2 Milwaukee, right now 3 Philly, 4 Chicago, 5 Boston, 6 Cleveland, 7 is Toronto, 8 is Brooklyn. And here's the thing, right? Everybody's kind of like, oh, that Toronto matchup is going to be the one. Man, whatever. Toronto has got a squad. Scotty Barnes is absolutely hooping. Now, they've gone through some injury issues that have put them in the position that they're in right now. But Toronto is a better team than you've seen. I wouldn't say that that's a cakewalk first round either. I think what you're hoping for here, right, is to match up with somebody that you feel like you can get out of in 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Boston could be that team, right? Boston,
Yeah.
everybody talking about the stretch Boston's going on. They're beating these teams. They're beating these teams. Yes, they are. I can't take it away from them. But we're talking about the Hornets. They did get the Nets and Grizzlies. Now that's showing me, okay, a little more bite in your step than I thought. But they did get the Nets and Grizzlies. But the Hawks, Pacers, Pistons, Hawks again. Then you got the Nuggets, the Nets, the Magic. You know what I'm saying? So like, yes, they've gone on this ridiculous stretch. They've won these games. And the best point was they've beaten a lot of the teams that we haven't beat. So that says something about them. But I feel like that's a team that you could match up well with, especially 100% healthy. I feel like that's a team the Bulls could I mean, pretty much right where it's at. That's the series that would happen now. I'm not worried about Boston. If the Bulls stayed at 4, I would be fine. Here's the thing, though. At 11-5, you're probably gonna move up minimum 1 spot. I could see Philly dropping a couple here because Philly, what we saw from them, the dynamic Philly team, James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tyrone Maxey, it's working so well, and then you see them play a team that can fight back. That's not the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
And is it really working that well? Now, granted, it's just one game, but now the question mark is there, like. Versus real teams, you got smoked by Miami, and you got smoked by Brooklyn tonight. And those are 2 teams that we all believe are real teams in this thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I'm looking at this as, is Philly for real? You know, all the questions they had about the Bulls, right? Like the NBA, are they frauds? Are Philly some frauds? Because I'll tell you this right now, Kyrie Irving clamped up James Harden tonight. So there's a lot.
He took that listen. He said, and I took that personal.
Real personal.
I took that personal.
Y'all watch that matchup. That was
man.
Hey, when they said he was getting bullied in practices, and that's why him and Kyrie never meshed. Like Kyrie was killing him on purpose. I was like, oh, that's what he was doing. Oh yeah, I don't want it to leave too. I ain't even mad at you no more.
This is what I say. So the Bulls can very well be third by the end of Saturday if they win. They're only a half game out now. And if they go on this stretch that we see them going, the Bulls is down in gloom as some Bulls fans were. The Bulls can potentially be back in second by this time next week, depending on how some things fall. But the thing that concerns me with staying at 4th, Pat, and this is, you may not agree, we haven't really talked about this, is staying at 4. The way that Brooklyn is playing, they could go past up to 3 or 2, But what if that 4-5 matchup ends up being Chicago versus the Brooklyn Nets in the first round?
Here's the thing, right? I'm not shying away from knowing we got to play competition.
Mm-hmm.
The one matchup that we may get that we may feel good about is if we get to a 3 and Cleveland stays at a 6. We may feel good about that because Jared Allen's out, and because Karis LeVert really hasn't turned into the player they've hoped for, and he's been out with that hamstring injury. I think he's only played like 4 games there with them or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're still trying to figure out what their team is. That's a lot. And remember, right? That's a lot of what getting through the playoffs is sometimes. Sometimes you need a little bit of that little bit of sugar on top to get you into that next round.
Yeah.
In a cakewalk sense. So, like, if we get a tough matchup, minus the Cleveland Cavaliers, everybody on this board is a tough matchup.
That is
true.
know
what I'm saying? And the only shock to me, right, would be if somebody gets knocked out of the play-in game. In the play-in game. So if one of the 7 or 8 seeds ends up getting beat by a 9 or 10, that would be the only shock to me.
Which is
like
completely
then
possible.
It's like now you've taken a major team out of there.
Yeah. And I mean, especially when you look at the fact that it's Atlanta and Charlotte at the 9 and 10 and Toronto and Brooklyn at the 7 and 8.
Yeah.
It's possible that one of them get knocked out because let LaMelo get hot for a series, right? Right?
Only takes 2.
Let Trae Young get hot for a series.
Yeah.
So we'll see that would. Could you imagine?
I asked it on my show.
If Brooklyn gets knocked out in a play-in.
I said you would see the Eastern Conference just like, here we go. Okay, now we back in it. Like,
I guarantee you, then
scared a lot of people.
At that point, the NBA front office is gonna be, hey, this playing shit's done. We're done.
Yeah.
We're this is over with.
I said the same thing, bro. I said let a major team get knocked out, they will cancel the play-in. Because now your first round goes from being Miami versus Brooklyn to being Miami versus Atlanta or Charlotte. They will cancel the play-in tournament during the tournament. They will never do that again, bro. To me, it's dumb anyway. But the fact that, like, in multiple years, you've gotten, like, teams that have gone through injury issues. So you've got major names in this turn. It's hilarious to me. But it's going to be interesting to see, though. I said the same thing. I was like, let Brooklyn get knocked out. They will cancel everything.
It is over
during the if Brooklyn's down at halftime in the second game, they will cancel everything. I guarantee it.
Adam Silver's gonna walk out on the court like, "Hey, all this is over with. Just go home. Don't even worry about it.
We're not doing this anymore."
He's gonna run in like Vince McMahon in the WWE versus during the corporation era. He's gonna like, "Oh, this is done. This is done."
You see him coming out of the stands full suit. Blows out both quads when he gets to the court.
Oh man, that is one of the funniest moments in wrestling.
That's why he's just sitting on the court. I'm not messing with that.
But man, I in so much pain though, bro.
Yeah, I know. but it's weird though, because like Bulls fans are trying to avoid a team and really, like, Boston's eating. Cleveland's been high. Cleveland's been a team that their size has bothered us.
Yeah.
If Philly falls and we got to play Philly, if Toronto rises and we got to play Toronto, if Brooklyn goes up and we got to play, like, what team do you think you're avoiding? Like, I don't want the what is it? Not the consolation prize, but like, you feel good that you got through the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because you got a cake matchup. Now, listen, I'm all about getting through it, whoever we match up with, but I don't think the Bulls are going into this thinking we gotta try and position ourselves to stay here at 4 or to rise up to 3 to avoid. Yeah, I don't think they're thinking we gotta avoid these teams. I think all they're thinking is we gotta win as many of these games as possible because we need to have this momentum going in. And if they win 11 games, I said the Bulls can get 11. If they win 11 games, you could be talking about them in a 2 seed. You really could.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't like that. That's more of a fan thing than I think anything else. People like say, "Oh, well, the player." I highly doubt There's players in the NBA in the locker room saying, "Hey, man, we can only win 5 more games because we want to play such and such team in the first round." They trying to win, right?
Hey, I
That's what
will
they're
say
trying
this:
to do.
when it gets to that last game, though,
Oh
if
yeah,
there's
that's
an
different.
option,
The last game, the last 2 maybe. If it's
them
an
last
option,
two,
that's different. That's
I've
different.
seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nobody's playing. Go sign Denzel Valentine again.
Yeah.
Get Denzel in here. He'll guarantee we lose.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. All right, let's get off of that before we get into the next topic, which will be talking about the Bulls and Cavs and that matchup and what's coming up there. I want to talk to you guys about Built Bar. Now, if I could tell you that you can get a healthy bar that is only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, but that same bar is also made with 100% real chocolate. That is a go. That is right up there with the Bulls winning title number 7. You want to be healthy. I know I'm trying to be more healthy. If you're on the keto diet, Built Bar fits into that as well. You want these Built Bars. There are Olympic athletes that use Built Bar. They trust it. We should trust it. And we got a special code for you today. You want to go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That is LOCK15 as a promo code. You get 15% at your order. Go to builtboard.com and tell them Locked On Bulls sent you. But now, Pat, let's get into it, man. Bulls versus Cavs. It's coming up in a couple of days. We get some time off. It'll be what we talk about on our Monday episode. What do you expect for this game? Cavs just signed Moses Brown, who I know a lot of Bulls fans he became the new Jeremy Grant. They wanted to see us sign him.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make, but what do you think about this game that's coming up?
Interesting about Moses Brown. He's got a phenomenal game on tape versus the Chicago Bulls. So doesn't make me feel like, hey, it's gonna be a cakewalk. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, hey, listen, we got Tristan. That's all. We got Tristan. I'm in it. Yeah. No, this game versus the Cavs is interesting, right? Because they've still got their Jared Allen. I don't believe he's slated to come back till the playoffs. Karis LeVert is missing his 8th straight game, and even if he were to come back by that game, he'd be on a limited minutes, but I don't even think they're talking about him coming back. And for the Bulls, kind of missing those same 3 guys, Lonzo, P. Will, and Caruso. So the injury bug has hit both of these teams. But I think for Cleveland, the injury bug is much more drastic because you lost a major piece that was game changer for you. With Jared Allen in there, they're basically playing Lowry at the 3. Now Lowry's back to the 4. He's got to match up against either Vooch or Tristan. Listen, I'm cool with that. Now, granted, Lowry's had some games versus us, but we haven't had dual bigs to go up against this Cleveland team. I'm excited to see what the Bulls can do against them. I'm excited to see how the Bulls match up with a team with size, right? Because we really haven't seen that either. You saw against Joel Embiid, but he's the only real size on that team anymore. But a team that's running real size at you, I think this is going to be a real test for the Bulls. And of course, Darius Garland is a bucket. They got to figure out what they finna do with Colin Sexton because you cannot put them 2 back on the court together.
Yeah, I think the Colin Sexton thing. He's a restricted free agent this offseason, right?
I believe so. Is this year 4 already? Good Lord.
Yeah.
That flew by. I believe you're right, though. I believe you're right.
Yeah, because he came in the year before Kobe White, so that would make sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's all but gone. But with that being said, this team absolutely is a matchup that scares me, right? It's a matchup because while Jared Allen is out, that boy Mobley is no joke, right? He's that man is a problem.
Rookie of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And a walking bucket, great defender. And so I worry about how he's going to disrupt Vooch, right? What does happen? Now I'm not worried about Laurie because if Laurie's moving back to the 4, we saw Javonte Green guard Laurie in the preseason with Laurie being at the 4, and that man with all the height that Laurie has over him gave Laurie the business. So I'm not even worried. I'm not even worried about it. Now that may come back to bite me in my butt because the Bulls seem to let role players go off. But with that being said, I really looking at this game and looking at the way that it's going to go, it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to say that at all. But I'm interested to see how Io guards Garland, how they guard Levine and DeRozan. But I think the key thing that's going to make the difference in this game is not necessarily Vooch going off because, like I said, Mobley is a monster.
Yeah.
But if we can get another 16 and 10 game from Nikola Vucevic, I think that's a dub for the Chicago Bulls.
The key there is, to me, is also don't go away from him if he's working.
Yeah.
Like Mobley, listen, Mobley's a great player. Mobley just don't have the weight right now to body up with Vooch. Mobley's got nothing but length. He's got the shooting ability. He's got the ability to get inside and do some amazing things around the bucket, up and unders, all that good stuff. He's got great finesse. But on the defensive end, Vooch should be able to kind of play that bully ball with him that we've seen him play with those lighter guard or lighter centers. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case and Vooch is working, don't go away from him. We saw in that Detroit game, Vooch was like 8 for 8 at one point, and then we just stopped giving him the ball. You know what I'm saying? And that's not that's something that the Bulls have struggled with, kind of where okay, now it's time for DeMar to cook. Now give DeMar the ball. Now it's time for Zach to cook. Now give Zach. Whoever, I'm fine with one-on-one because that's the modern NBA. I don't want to see an entire game of it, but I'm fine with one-on-one. But whoever's hot, that's who you let go one-on-one. If Zach LaVine is cooking Darius Garland, let him cook. Now, you got Isaac Okoro. That man is a clamp. So you got to figure out how to stop or how to get past him. But if Zach LaVine is cooking him, or if DeMar DeRozan is cooking him, keep going to them. Don't go away from the hot hand. Too many times do the Bulls go away from the hot hand unless it's DeMar.
Yeah. DeMar,
and I feel like that's a major problem.
Yeah, and it makes the Bulls easier to guard down the stretch because teams know they're going to DeMar. I can't tell you how many times Kobe's been opened up on the corner and they don't give him. Now I understand when Kobe's had offshoot nights, but there were times where Kobe's been like 6 for 8 from the field, right?
Yeah.
And 4 of those baskets came in maybe the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Why are you not going to him?
Yeah.
I want to see them add those wrinkles, especially going into the playoffs. They talk about players being battle tested, right? Not being battle tested. That's how you battle test players and get them prepared for playoffs. Is you trust them. You put the ball in their hands and say, "Hey, if we lose, we lose. But you're gonna get over this hump and this fear of taking these shots in these crunch times because we need you in the playoffs. We're gonna need you." And so I hope that the Bulls do that as well. In this game, and I hope that, like you said, feed the hot hand. I hope Derrick Jones Jr. has another big game off the bench. Hopefully, Troy Brown doesn't hurt us too much. Things like that that I'm definitely going to be looking out for. One of the things that could help us as well is that this is going to be a back-to-back for the Cavaliers. They actually play Miami tomorrow, and that's not going to be an easy task at all. So we'll see. We'll see the Bulls. This is shaping up for the Bulls to be able to get their second win in a row. And listen, they need it. You
got to find a way to do it. You can't go in there and take a L. You know what I'm saying? Like the Bulls have to find ways to get wins when you can, because listen, as much as excited as I am, those 11 wins, I don't have all 11 of them coming against the best teams in the NBA, because even I have to admit the Bulls haven't shown me that they get up for those games all the time. You know, when Caruso's back, maybe it's different. Maybe he shows us something different. Maybe the team shows us something different. We have seen that effect happen, but the thing with the Bulls to me that gets them going, first off, key in, figure out who's the hot hand, and the one thing in this stretch, feed it through Vooch.
Yeah,
Vooch has shown you, like, I know Muggs kill Vooch, but Vooch has shown you that he's a very willing passer and he's good at it.
For sure.
Kobe White, when the ball gets too stagnant, they start feeding it through Vooch. Now all of a sudden, Kobe's got a touch in the corner. Now Javante's got a touch in the corner. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's what it takes for you to get some ball movement and not just rely on one guy to knock down a shot, feed it through Vooch. Like, it's so weird sometimes. Like, you'll watch the Bulls and you'll be like, "Man, that's really working," and then you won't see it for like 20 minutes. You'll be like, "What the heck happened to that? That was working." You know what I'm saying? Like Greg Popovich did one thing versus us all game long. And he didn't change nothing because it was working.
A simple pick and roll. A simple pick and roll. That PTSD, bro. That you really just him, but yeah, I agree with everything being said. Hopefully the Bulls have a great showing against Cleveland, and we go into the next week possibly getting Caruso back. We'll see if he's back for that Monday game against Sacramento. I would love to see that, but that may be too soon. I can't wait till we just get a better look at this complete team and see how we're going to look going into the playoffs. Yeah. That's really it for today, Pat. You got anything left before we get up out of here?
Man, I think that's pretty much it, man. Give them that great content. We'll see you guys next week. We hope y'all enjoyed the first week of Locked On Bulls with the new crew. You know what I'm saying? We got so much. It feel like we've been doing this much longer now because so much has happened in a week.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's been a heck of a week, bro.
JV 5-0 right now. Stop playing with us. That's all I'm saying. JV 5-0 right now. It's been an interesting week, dog. So
definitely. One thing I do want to address before we go, because we've been getting asked, and I looked into today, so we didn't have access to the voicemail for a while. Everything was still getting turned over to us, but we do have still that voicemail, that call and text line. The number for that is 331-979-1369, the same one that it was when Matt and Dave was here. We'll get into the mailbag at some point next week when we have a day between games or something. We'll get into it because they've been showing us some love in the voicemail, bro. I didn't know before today. I checked it about an hour before we logged in to record today. I was like, we've been getting some love in the voicemail, bro.
Hey, I like it. Yeah. Shout out to the Locked On fans, man. I appreciate everybody I appreciate y'all for letting us in, right? They could have came and turned on us real quick.
Absolutely.
They could have came in and turned on us real quick. So I appreciate y'all for showing love, man.
Definitely. Well, Pat, go and give me your social media, man. Let's get up.
Hey, man, y'all can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer, and make sure y'all follow the Locked On Bulls Instagram at Locked On Bulls, and Twitter, same one, ain't it? It's at Locked On Bulls. Hey, Instagram and Twitter at Locked On Bulls, man. You get live tweets during the game from the Locked On Bulls Twitter, man, and it's just a lot of fun, man. Plus, we're gonna have a lot of goofy stuff going up on the Instagram as well as updates on the podcast. So
definitely be on the look on that while we look to utilize the social media a little bit more. You can follow me at CEO Haize, at CEO Haize. Like Pat said, you can follow us collectively at Locked On Bulls. But that's been it. Thank you so much for our first week of the new era of Locked On Bulls. That's it for us for today. JV out.
JV out.